a lot of years. I struggled even with infertility because I had kind of irregular, like they were irregular in the length. Like some months my cycle was like, a normal 31. There it went up to 42 days sometimes. I'm gonna say this because I know there are still women my age and older who are uneducated about what we mean when we say cycle. Your cycle starts the first day of your period and it ends the day before your next period. That's your cycle. So if I'm saying 31 days, I'm not saying I'm bleeding for 31 days. Fucking euphemisms that we use to talk about periods too, like women will say on, like, because I came on means they got their period, because we're fucking so ashamed to talk about our fucking periods. I'm gonna say period or bleeding because that's what's happening, and if I have to experience it, you can hear about it. Leo season's here, and if you've been craving the courage to show up and be truly seen, I made something for you. Safe to Be Seen is my new seasonal workbook filled with soul-centered prompts, mirror work, and grounding rituals to help you embody your light without fear. This isn't about performance, it's about presence, and you're ready. Download it now at my website, empoweredwithmelisahepner.org, or you can go to my link tree on my Instagram, and there is a link directly there. Emotionally unavailable. Okay, so I was looking at your profile again this morning, and I'm really excited to have this conversation because the only people that I've really talked in depth about this to is like my 22-year-old and 18-year-old, because they've both done shrooms. I love that you're working with women around sexual shame. I have one listener in particular that I'm really excited to hear this episode because I know their shame. And here's like, my brain is not with me today. So I'm probably just not gonna have a shut off valve, and I'm really sorry for that. But I'm just so tired, and it's a struggle today, and I don't know why. But I never really, probably I had subconscious sexual shame because I found that I had lots of shame covering everything that you can possibly be ashamed about. That was really the source of all of my crazy. But I've always been a very, very, very hypersexual person, and I felt pretty okay with that, even though it wasn't like the norm in my circles. I was married to someone the first time, to somebody really hyposexual. So that created some shame in me because I thought I was just gross. And that's why he didn't.
Mismatch.
You know what I mean? And at the time, I've told this story before, but it was so traumatic for me. I was really religious, and I was in a church, and he was preaching a sermon about how women should not withhold sex from their husbands, okay? I'm sitting here bawling because I'm like, I am begging this MF to want to have sex with me. Like, when you gonna preach to the boys about this? Because I don't know what else to. I'm like, excuse me, can you talk to Jesus on my behalf? Because I don't know why this man doesn't want to have sex. Now, I understand ADHD and autism so much better, but they were not like front and center diagnosis back then. Like, we got married in 2000. So, like, I didn't know he had autism. I'm embarrassed to say it, I didn't believe in ADHD. So, like, it was just a really weird time. So that made me feel really shameful. And then, like, a little bit, well, I was constantly humping my friends when I was little. I think that was from sexual abuse, but got caught, that was shameful. And then if I got caught masturbating the one time, which I really wasn't even doing anything, I just had my hand down there, and I was told that, I wish I could remember how she said it, but it was really shitty. It was my grandma, so she was like, that's nasty, I think is what she said. So, like, I know that underneath I had some shame, but consciously I've always been like, I love sex. Now I'm in a weird, like, perimenopause phase where I could take it or leave it right now, but like, a year ago that was not the case. So, but I've embraced that. But for women who haven't, I'm so happy that people like you exist, because it's not an area I really understand, So you have gone on this really intense journey for your own self, and now you help others with that. I thought wherever you wanted to start with like your personal journey is where we would start. So however much
Okay.
you want to share about that. I mean, I know you're open, so, but I don't know
Yeah.
how far back you want to go or whatever you think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to really just start talking about how what led me to this journey, which is kind of what you just said, my own healing process and how that kind of all had to get unpacked. But yeah, just wherever you want to take the conversation.
Well, I guess my first question is, what do you think your shame was centered around? Why do you think that you were covered in sexual shame?
Oh my goddess. So on the surface, I thought my shame had all to do with getting herpes at age 18. From the guy that I had been dating for like 3 years, this was my first time having
Oh,
sex. 4 weeks later, boom, herpes. And so I really think that that was like a surface level catastrophic trigger to some unconscious shame that was, for me, implanted when I was in my mother's womb. So I'm adopted. My birth mother was 12 when she was pregnant with me. She had been molested as a child. And so I think that I inherited some of that shame. And because I was raised as a preacher's daughter, I think that I had religious shame around sex my entire life. And then, boom, I get herpes right after I have sex for the first time. And everything I was taught in church about if you have sex before marriage, something bad will happen. Well, something bad did happen.
same seas.
So
Yeah.
so as I've uncovered all of these layers, first it was really that herpes diagnosis that became sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back. But now, as I've uncovered layer after layer after layer, it's like, oh, well, there was the religious shame. There was the shame around even being a woman. There was a shame around being a strong woman. There was a shame around the sexual trauma that my birth mother inherited and what happened to me while she was in the, I was in the womb, right? While she was in that 9-month period, was that I just got flushed with cortisol because she got kicked out of her house. She had to go live with this other host family because she was putting me up for adoption. And there was like so much non-belief from her mother around like what had happened, but it was her mom's boyfriend who did it.
Okay, cute. Yeah.
So, yeah. So it's like all of that, I think, just wired me for stress and also wired me for shame around sex specifically.
Yeah. Well, shit. I guess so. I mean, damn.
Mm-hmm.
12 years old. I can't even fathom that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So everything that we know now about how trauma is carried on generationally really
Yeah.
does begin with the womb. And then you
Mm-hmm.
add the spiritual concepts to that of generational trauma. And my God,
Yep.
like, yeah, you
Yep.
were covered in shame. And, I love that you have brought up religious programming because I was taught by my grandma that if you lose your virginity before you're married, there is a way to absolve yourself of that sin, and that is to marry the person that you lost your virginity to. And that is how I married that man, because I lost my virginity to
Uh,
him. So, you
mm-hmm.
can't be out here willy-nilly. I also love that you said the shame of being a woman. Like, we are taught explicitly, like, there's a lot of
Yeah.
implicit bias, but there is so much explicit bias about women and existing on this
Yep.
planet as a woman, and it's so
Mm-hmm.
infuriating. Even today I saw a debate or whatever. I'm addicted to TikTok, but about like women not dressing a certain way so they can leave something to the imagination, and it's like, what? And even like women who are in bigger bodies being bold enough to show their bodies.
Yeah.
My God, have some decency or whatever. And I'll be honest, that's something that really I was programmed with for lots and lots of years. It took
Mm-hmm.
having a daughter who I've raised differently than I was raised, who's proud of her body and, was like, ooh, I look so good, And I was like, I
Yes.
really like those shorts too. I'm gonna give it a try, and just like embracing my own stuff and wearing
Mm-hmm.
bathing suits for the first time in years, all the things. Yeah, it's really important that we embrace just being a woman, like on
Mm-hmm.
underneath all the other ways that we show up. Like, we are taught that it's not good enough just to be a woman on this planet. So I'm so glad that you're addressing that in the work that you do. What do you think? Well, first of all, do you have a relationship now with your adoptive parents still?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they've come to accept everything?
Libby and Calvin, my parents. Yeah, for sure.
Good.
So we don't talk about it. No, we don't talk about it.
Oh, okay. It's just swept.
But it's like, you know, it's like a swept thing. And I think for me, that's really why. So when we understand trauma isn't what happened to you. It's how you coped with what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, getting herpes as a freshman in college when I'm away from home for the very first time, I'm in January, second semester. I was like president of my dorm, taking 21 credit hours, you know, classic overachiever.
I was like, okay, hey, good girl. Doing all the good things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, girl. The best girl. The best girl. The best little Christian soldier, too. And so I'm away from college visiting some friends when I have this herpes outbreak. And I'm like, what is wrong with my vagina? I had to go to this basically like an urgent care clinic. And then I'm like, well, shit, this is going to be on the health insurance form. So I have to tell my parents. And I write them an email. I cannot speak these things to them. That's such a thing I learned from my mom. I write this email to them and they respond and they were loving in their response. They weren't judgmental in their response, but I knew that they were disappointed. Right. But for me, the trauma happened in the separation of connection. It was okay, now because we didn't talk about it, and this was in 2005. So it's they weren't go to therapy, go get some counseling. It was we're never going to talk about this. Now, I already had eating disorders, which became even worse at this point because I was trying to have some semblance of control.
And you hated your body now.
But that was a huge schism. Of course, my body was so unsafe. Mm-hmm. I hated it even more. Mm-hmm. So the schism there, that separation, has really been a theme of my entire adult life. But what's so fascinating is in the last few years, I've connected to my birth mother. Mm-hmm. I actually was on the phone with her last week for 3 hours. And she is such a fascinating person because she gets that, she understands. She's very I want to do this work too. You're healing the womb trauma that I have. I need to heal it too. It's so interesting. And the woman who raised me, we haven't really ever had those conversations. Yeah. And I know that that's probably still, her own stuff. And
that's her own fear and her own shame.
Yeah. And it's I think sometimes maybe I'm not going to try to hypothesize my mother, but I don't know. It's maybe she's afraid of the things that I'm talking about because of the fact that maybe she's afraid of what might happen to me for talking about them. Does that make sense?
Sure, because
because what you said, this isn't accepted online.
Oh no,
it's not okay to be unfuckwithable as a woman.
Oh no. Mm-mm.
So my mom and dad are in their 70s.
Okay, yeah. So absolutely. I mean, honestly, for that age group, they've handled it pretty well. I mean, them and their parents, it was all appearances. You do not ever talk about shit like this in public, or even to each other. You bury that shit way down. They taught us that. They taught us appearance and compliance are the only things that fucking matter on this planet. You have to make sure that you are looking a certain way. Then you add your dad being a pastor. That's a whole... Yes. I have a client whose dad was a pastor who didn't want to be a pastor, did it because his mom wanted him to, and was living kind of a double life that kind of that's what fucked everyone in the family up because they were having to put up this front, and then now he's an atheist. So what are you going to do? But it really, that generation, I don't like them. I'm just going to be honest because of who I was raised by. But I've just in the last couple of months have gotten to a place of peace with it where I love myself so much and offer so much compassion to myself that it helps me to understand why they did what they did and why that's what. Yeah. And God, I'm a mom now. So I know how I've passed down certain generational traumas and how easy it is to do what was done and think about it later. So I really do. I hold a lot of compassion for them, unless they're trying to interact with me and then we're done. I just don't. we don't have anything
Yeah.
in common, honey. So don't, you know, like, I mean, obviously I meet people from that generation, but they're evolved and enlightened. So like we can have these conversations,
Yeah.
but overall they're just still very, very, very stunted. And then even like the elder Gen X, I'm a baby Gen X and a elder millennial. So I'm a zennial, but like the people who are in that age bracket, like 10 years older than me, they're fucking mean as fuck. Like they just still carry all of that stuff. And I'm like, I was having a conversation with people the other day that was just not landing at all. And I was like, really? You're just that hard, huh? Just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me that they're like, oh, we don't talk about this. And also, I understand shame really well now. So, I mean, I hear shame when people talk. So I can hear that your mom would be like, oh shit, you know, like I failed you in some way. This is my shame because I failed you. Whereas like your birth mom, she did what she was supposed to do, right? She didn't have an abortion. She carried the baby. She gave you to a loving family, blah, blah, blah. So she's like, how, you know, it's not as hard for her to be in a supportive role. Yeah. Because
that's true.
She doesn't have to carry any of your like weight of your decisions or ramifications of them, you know? So that makes sense to me.
Right.
And it's shitty, you know, like, can we all just start talking about stuff? But my grandma was kind of the same way. That I was primarily raised by my grandma, because my parents were addicts. They were kind of in and out of our lives, and then they died. So she was a narcissist. She really was. And then I got a lot of fucking narcissistic traits. So that's where, like, I started to forgive other people a lot faster when I started to realize, like, because I was called a narcissist a couple of times in my history, and I was like, friends, y'all think I'm narcissist? And they're like, no, I don't, but, you know, whatever. And I started looking, I'm like, okay, well, it makes sense that I'd have a lot of narcissistic traits if I was raised by a narcissist.
Right.
But I don't know a lot of people from that generation that weren't, you know? So what was the turning point for you? Like, when did you start getting into the alternative plant medicine, all that stuff?
Yeah. Well, in 2019, I say I had my like spiritual awakening. And so in that year, I really started to explore like the gateway drugs of spirituality, which is crystals, tarot, meditation, astrology, just dabbling in all those things. And about halfway through the year, about halfway through the year, I realized that I needed to come off birth control. So my husband and I have chosen to be child-free. And I'd been on the pill for like 16 years at that point. And I'm thinking, and I'm listening to this internal voice say, you're never going to fully understand what it is to be a woman if you are always on birth control. So he got a vasectomy. I came off of the pill in 2020. And breaking away from those synthetic hormones upended my life in a lot of ways. I had horrific mood swings, completely lost my libido. My hair started to fall out. I got cystic acne, and I had to learn about the cycle as a 33-year-old woman who had never really understood this. Like, I'm from South Carolina. Reproductive education is trash. My mom, who raised me, had had a hysterectomy before I was born, which is why I was adopted. And so I wasn't around a bleeding person. So reconnecting with and understanding my cycle unearthed, or I guess resurfaced, the sexual shame, because I would like remember these things. Like, for instance, I remembered that after I had my period as a kid, I think I was 11, you know, I didn't have another period for 6 months. I was convinced it was because I was pregnant. Now, I did not know my birth mom was so young. Yeah. I didn't find out my birth mother was 12 until I was in my early 20s. My mom and dad sort of just like pushed it under the rug and said she was in her teenage years because my sister's adopted too. And that was how old her birth mom was. So they kind of skirted the issue. Thank God, because if I had known she was so young, I would have been more neurotic. Yes. But I had this, and now I had this internalized fear of getting pregnant. So I thought I got pregnant by my dad's beach towel, which is why I didn't have a period for 6 months. Anyway, that resurfaced. I was like, oh my God, that shame is so ingrained. And then I started to really pick apart, you know, how much was still stored within me. All these partners I'd had after I got divorced because I was chasing love. All of these men that I let in my life who were basically pieces of shit just because I felt like I only could accept scraps because I was dirty and like scorned, right? Like the big letter H, herpes. So that really started to become unearthed when I did the menstrual work. And so I did all the conventional things to try to deal with that. Therapy, like anxiety medication, pleasure work, all of that stuff. And so finally I heard on a podcast, this woman called Bijou Finney talk about how sexual shame and sexual trauma can be healed through psychedelic mushrooms. I immediately am like, come on my podcast. We've got to talk about this. And the second we hung up, I'm like, I'm hiring you. So I started to work with her in 2022 and I asked the mushrooms, help me to become open to receiving pleasure. That's the intention I went into this 3 to 4 month container with Bijou. Well, mushrooms give you what you need, not what you ask for. And they were like, well, you can't receive pleasure if you can't receive anything. So you have to learn to receive first. And in order to receive, we're going to like completely upend your whole fucking life. You're going to leave your TV job. You're going to leave this like image that you have portrayed yourself as. We're going to make you have a dark night of the soul. We're going to put you through some grief because you also have not healed from your divorce or from herpes. Yeah. So do all this work. And then 18 months later, you know, I realize on a walk, oh, I'm way more orgasmic now. Have I become more open to receiving pleasure? Oh shit, it finally happened. So that's sort of how I found them and how they sort of helped to break apart the walls that I really had around a lot of pieces of myself that felt unsafe to venture into, because I was really at my core, not only ashamed, but deeply terrified that I was secretly unworthy of the success that I had created for myself, the love that I had in this person who's now my husband, and that I was just secretly not that great.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting too, how we all come to a place where we like feel fundamentally at our core unlovable. And it's, I love to hear the different ways that was created within different people. But also you unlocked a memory for me. And it's not like I've never remembered this, but so I started at 11 too, and I have an 11-year-old daughter, so we're waiting any day. But I, first of all, you didn't talk about period in mixed company. Okay. So we didn't really talk about it at all. In fact, I'm going to tell you how I told my grandma I started my period. You don't need to know this. Nobody else does either. But I just told my daughter this story the other day because I was like, listen, we're going to talk about it. You know, we've talked about it forever. But, yes. But I was like, hey, it's coming any day now. I can tell. So like, I was asking her preferences. What do you want me to have stocked here? Have you heard your friends talk about anything? You know, because I was pissed because I wasn't allowed to use tampons, you know, virginity and all that.
Sure.
But also, nobody taught me how to use a fucking pad, and that's where the shame came from. So, my grandma, first of all, I guess I probably have told this some of this story, but my grandma was she actually was going through menopause, and my grandpa, who she'd been married to for 36 years, left her for his best friend's wife. She had a fucking breakdown, as you may imagine. Yeah. She raising 3 children that are not her own, and she's losing it. So, that year at Christmas, this is like the very abbreviated version, my dad, who had previously not been deemed safe to be a caregiver for us, she was like, yo, Charlie, you're going to have to take these children because, well, I can't. And he was like, okay, let's do this. So we spent that Christmas with him, and that's when I started my period. And I wasn't even comfortable talking to my grandma, who I lived with and was very close with, about this. I knew what it was, thankfully. I listened in class, but like, I was also like, we don't talk about this, and this is so fucking embarrassing. I didn't tell anyone. They knew because I was bleeding all over myself, obviously, but they also didn't approach me to be like, baby, now listen, do you need help? So that's how it happened. And then my grandma got her shit together. We go home, and I'm like, I was standing in my room like, just go fucking talk to her, and counting down like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, no. 3, 2, 1. Like, for real, an hour or so. So I go and I say, and in like 3rd grade, I'd had some kidney infection that caused some bleeding, and I thought it was my period then, and I was all excited. Wasn't that. And so I was like, oh, that's all. Okay, I got a plan. So I said, Grandma, and I'll never forget, we were in my garage, which is where our laundry was, and she was doing laundry. I was like, Grandma, how do you know if you have a bladder infection? And she's like, well, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't think that's what this is. And she's like, what do you think it is? And I was like, I think I started my period. And she was nice. She was actually very sweet. But all she did was walk me to the end of the closet where fucking panty liners are. Because that's all she needed in her little menopause days, you know. Panty liner. You're going to hand me a fucking panty liner. Bitch, I fucking bled all over myself every month at school. And I wasn't even taught, like, proper hygiene. Like, so, like,
right.
Seriously, that created so much dirtiness, shame in me that I carried for so long. Like, I started talking about it in adult years. So, like, I was able to release so much of that. That's why, like, I do talk about weird shit on here sometimes, because shame does die in safe spaces, you know?
Yes.
But it's so frustrating that so many girls are going through this experience.
Well, what I love is hearing everybody's like first period story, because the more, like you said, the more you talk about it, the less taboo it becomes. And so, yeah, I'm obsessed with first period stories. Like, God, I want there to just be a podcast where everyone just like goes and tells their first period story. Probably there is. I don't know if I've never looked, but wouldn't that be fun?
Yes.
Because like you said, so my first period story was I started the night before I went to camp, like sleepaway camp.
No.
Yes. And that was Saturday night, and mine was not red. My blood was not red when it started, right? And that's very common. It was like brown. And I'm like, did I poop myself and not know what that was? I'm like, okay. So, cause I've been playing all day with my friends. So anyway, I finally, like, later that night, I'm like, no, I think this might be about period. So I tell my mom. She also just has panty liners because, again, she didn't have a period.
Right.
And she's like, well, the next tomorrow morning after church, or I guess we went before church, we'll buy some new things at the store. Well, she's like, if you're going to go swimming at sleepaway camp, you're going to need to wear a tampon. I'm like, okay. When was the last time my mom had used a tampon? First of all, probably not for 10 years.
I'm dying inside.
So tampons have changed. Yeah. So I'm 11. My mom's like, okay, let me show you how to do it. She basically has to put the tampon in for me.
Did it hurt so
Highly
bad?
Uncomfortable. Oh, so bad.
Yeah.
Because, you know, like when it takes a while to figure out how to finagle that thing into the right space for your anatomy. Right. She was just pointing it straight up.
And you got to put that shit in some lube or something.
Something, right? So, oh my gosh. So we put it in, I think, before church. We get to camp several hours later. It's not been that long, maybe 5 hours tops. And my mom's like, okay, I cannot leave you here until I know you can get the tampon out. I'm like, all right, that's true. That's good.
Fair.
I can't get it out. It's like, it hurts so bad, right? And she's like, okay, well, I'll have to get it so she pulls it out. Of course, it's barely any blood on it. It's so uncomfortable and painful. I'm basically crying. And I'm like, all right, well, no tampons for me. No swimming for me this week. So that was the first part. The second part is I'm somewhere different. I don't have somebody that I really can trust. Fortunately, I had a really great counselor. And halfway through the week, a couple things happened, right? Like, God, the feeling of the blood on the pad is so disgusting to me. I'm changing pads left, right, and sideways. I don't even think I'm using a pad for more than an hour. I hated it. So my like trick was I would just lay a couple of pieces of like toilet paper between me and the pad because that stickiness was so gross. Well, I'm changing my pad so much that a few times, like a few days in, I'm like, I'm going to run out of these. I'm going to run out. And my mom had told one of the counselors that what had happened, so they knew. And she's like, go talk to this counselor if you need something. I go talk to her. Of course, I wait like you did. I'm like, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, now's the time. Oh, shoot. Like, it's right before lights out. I've got to tell her. So I go into her, and I'm like, knocking on her door. I don't remember her name. Miss whoever. I need some blah, blah, blah. And she gives me, and I also probably cry about it first. This is totally my MO. Let things bubble up. Like, keep it stuffed down until you lose it. And then you cry for some stupid asinine reason, like you stumped your toe, and you're hysterical. Okay, that was very much me. Because my mom never taught me to process my emotions. But again, that's a whole separate story. This blessed counselor gives me pads that are like super XL plus pads.
You got a diaper on.
Are you kidding me? Oh, for sure. They were like this long and like this thick. I'm like, what the hell? So anyway, That was my first period story.
Oh my God,
I think
dying.
we need more of those. It's like you can laugh about it now, right? And you said like we don't talk about in mixed company. Let me tell you how I'm bucking that trend. Everybody and their grandma knows when I'm on my period.
Oh, me
my
too.
My nephew knows,
Me too.
my husband, my brother-in-law. I'm like, nah, I can't come over because I'm on my period and I don't want to.
Yeah, my younger brother still, it drives me fucking insane, but still I purposely say it around him, and he'll be like, God, that's nasty. And I'm like, you're fucking nasty. But my boys have known about my period since they could talk. Like, I'd be like, no, I'm on my period and my back hurts. And guess what? My little 22-year-old, when he was in middle school, he was like, Mom, can I get a little thing together so that if a girl starts her period at school, like, that I can help? He never actually did it, I don't think, but he was concerned about it, you know, like, he cared.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, we're
Good
not.
for him.
You're not going to be like your uncle. Like, everybody talks about
Right.
periods in this house. And, like, I did a short stint as a teacher. I thought I knew. I didn't know shit. But while I could not teach these children about math and shit, I taught them a lot of valuable life shit. So, like, with the girls, it was 5th grade. So they were all starting their periods and, you know.
Yep.
I would purposely, on my period, be like, okay, who's going to watch the class? I got to go change my tampon. And I remember the girls being like, oh, you don't care? Like, oh my God. And I was like, what? We all have periods, do we not? Oh. I was like, no, I mean, I get it. Like, you guys are young, that y'all probably don't talk about stuff. But, like, I was so intentional about that. And then with my daughter, I've talked about it from day one. And I don't know how open she'll be with other people, but at least with me, she doesn't, like, she wasn't embarrassed to have the conversation. I couldn't even fucking look at my grandma when she was trying to talk to me about it. So I've just tried really hard from day one, talk about my change. Now I will say this, I did not change tampons in front of her for a really long time because babies are curious and I didn't want her shoving stuff up her vagina. But once, like, I knew that she wouldn't do that, I'll do what I've showered with her. I'm very open with her because everything was so hide yourself and what, I mean, I was raised by somebody in the silent generation. So, like, it was very, you don't talk about anything and you don't show your body to anyone and blah, blah, blah. Everything is a shameful secret because you're a woman. So, like, I've tried really hard, really, really hard to just be chill about all of that. But I love hearing other people's stories because it is so, it's I feel seen because I didn't even realize how upsetting some of the stuff like that that's popping up in my brain was. Yeah. I mean, I had an example not long after I had my first period. I went to a church camp and she freaked out because we went to buy supplies and it was like a pre-packaged, you're sleeping away at camp thing that fucking maybe Walmart was selling or whatever. But I'll let you know, in that bag, there was a few tampons. Okay. She was like, took those right out. She's like, you don't need those. Now, I will be honest, by the time 8th grade hit, she was a little more open to it. And I was taking sailing lessons and started. And she's like, I guess you're going to have to use tampons. But she didn't know shit about them. So I fucking hurt myself so bad walking around just like, I don't know what to do with this. So I was kind of glad because my daughter was like, I don't think I want to use tampons. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Because I don't really want to, like, do that right now because I'm nervous for you. Yeah. Like, you know, I'm nervous for you.
Honestly, yeah.
But it's not because and it's bad or you're bad for having a period. There's just a lot of, thank God, somebody cared about women enough to make things, period panties or, like, I buy those, like, they're like Depends, but they're period diapers for like the first 2 days of my cycle. But I also, something that you said really struck me about coming off birth control. I didn't really even think about what happens when you're not having your natural rhythm, which is in sync with the moon and all of the things. Yeah. Like when you're preventing that, I can think of a lot of biophysical and emotional responses to that because we are naturally attuned to our rhythm. And if that's disrupted, I could see where that would really, I'm going to use the word stunt for lack of a better word, but stunt some growth there. I do want to be clear. I'm not hating on anyone taking birth control. If that's where you feel you need for your reproductive health right now, that's the journey you're on. Nobody cares. Okay, so we're not telling you not to take birth control. We're talking about ourselves. Interesting, but it is important to talk about.
No, for sure. And I am glad you put that out there too, because I think that in this time, I live in Texas. If you're having sex and you don't want to have a baby, please be on birth control.
Right. I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm going to say
They're
the same
taking
exact
our rights
thing.
away, left, right, and sideways.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to be on birth control if you don't want a baby. Yeah.
And it's birth, right. And I think the problem that I have with hormonal birth control is it's overprescription for really young girls who have root cause issues that doctors don't want to fuck with. They're
because your
just throw
cramps
a
are
pill
too
at
heavy?
her.
Yeah.
Yep. Too heavy, cycle not regular, mood swings, acne. That's what I originally went on for. Well, that's what I told my mom I went on it for. I really wanted to have sex. So it's like, but that's for me the issue that I have with birth control is the fact that so many things that birth control is prescribed for could be handled at the root cause level. Birth control is like a Band-Aid over those issues. It's going to come right back. That's what happened to me. I had acne when I went on it. I had acne when I came off of it. Okay. But for those 16 years, pretty freaking clear skin. In those 16 years though, I was also experiencing a lot of things that I never even knew could be attributed to birth control: anxiety, depression, addiction, issues with emotions, and living in a constant masculine-based energy where I was hustling and proving. And I think we've got 20-year-olds, women in their 20s specifically, who are deeply dysregulated at their core because they're on these synthetic hormones that keep them so static that, like you said, they don't learn how to manage the ebbs and flows. That's why perimenopause is so much more fucked up.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have the 20s to learn the hormonal pathways in the body.
Well, and see, for me, I can judge my overall health off my cycle for years. I mean, a lot of years. I struggled even with infertility because I had kind of irregular, like they were irregular in the length. Like some months my cycle was like, a normal 31. It went up to 42 days sometimes. So, I'm going to say this because I know there are still women my age and older who are uneducated about what we mean when we say cycle. Your cycle starts the first day of your period and it ends the day before your next period. That's your cycle. So if I'm saying 31 days, I'm not saying I'm bleeding for 31 days. And the fucking euphemisms that we use to talk about periods too, like women will say came on, like because I came on. That means they got their period because we're fucking so ashamed to talk about our fucking periods. I'm gonna say period or bleeding because that's what's happening. And if I have to experience it, you can hear about it. But, so I had infertility because of that. Cause I just never knew how to time shit because it was so irregular. What's crazy is the older I've gotten, the more regular I've gotten. And, as like, I'm in like I have kind of wild weight fluctuations. I can gain weight really easily without doing shit different. I can lose weight really easily without doing shit different. I'm sure it's my thyroid, whatever. So, but as like in an upper weight level, I will start to notice longer cycles because of lots of things. But, I now am really regular, probably for the last, God, at least 5 years. I've used a period tracker since probably like 17 years since I got a smartphone, and now I'm like trying to educate my daughter on that for like whenever you start, like we can tell a lot about what's happening inside of you just based off your period. And so I can't imagine not having that because I did a short stint on birth control. I was not consistent. And I was like, I am like thinking I'm pregnant every other day because I don't know what, and then like heavy bleeding because I didn't take it correctly. And I was like, this probably isn't meant for me. But also I learned I'm so sensitive to estrogen and progesterone. Like I have PMDD too. You can tell a lot based off what's going on with my period. And I have PMDD, and like when I was pregnant with her, actually, I had to take progesterone supplements because I had had 2 miscarriages before her. And holy fucking shit. Like, I was a psycho the entire time. And it wasn't until then that I started piecing together so many things about my own mental health and what I was seeing in women around me who had taken birth control since they were teenagers. And I'll tell you, it's scary because even now I think, what's the balance like? I don't want to encourage birth control to her at a young age because of the physical ramifications. And I don't fucking want her having an unplanned pregnancy just because.
Right.
It's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah. There are, fortunately, I think a lot more educational programs now around that. I mean, but as a child, right? Like as a young teen who's just bleeding, the inconsistency of the period too can make it really wonky, especially if she is having sex. So yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky, and I don't even pretend to have an answer to that.
I know. I think about it all the time because I'm like, I hate them. I really do hate the birth control because I've just seen, I've seen I think it's a necessary evil in this world. Yeah. But I've seen so many women. Like I had a friend who was on antipsychotics for some years and then came off those and birth control and normal.
Wow.
Like, yeah, she had trauma in her childhood. We grew up together. So, like, there's that. But she's able to manage all of that without any medication except for the occasional Xanax. But, like, it's not like I just think that's insane. That birth control can create that much disconnect that you would need an antipsychotic. And I think this is a very common experience. And what pisses me off is even women gynecologists will gaslight your ass when you talk about it. Like, they'll be like,
oh my God, yes.
Yes, right? Like, you talk about these symptoms and they're like, well, that's just your anxiety. You're a woman. How could you?
I sat through a panel, oh my gosh, in 2022 here in my town with some of the top gynecologists at Baylor Scott and White. And if one of them did not like brag about giving a 12-year-old an IUD, I'm like, wait a second. First of all, I have a lot of questions. Did you give this child pain management was my first freaking question. Right. But I'm like, why did you go straight to an IUD after all the other things? And the kid had like very extreme periods, I guess was the reason. But when I went to talk to them afterwards, because I was like not going to I was a news anchor up until this point. I wasn't going to just like hammer them in a group setting. So I go up to them afterwards and I'm like, okay, I got a lot of questions about this. And if this is a all female panel. So you give a kid an IUD. How did you do that? Did you give them pain management? She's like, oh yeah, we put her under. I'm like, oh my God. Like, so why are you not giving pain management to everybody? Is my first question. She's like, well, it's not painful. I was like, that's a fucking lie, dude. That is a bold-faced lie. She's like, well, I mean, I've had two of them. I was like, okay, first of all, your experience and my experience can be different and both can be true.
Right.
And secondly, if there's even like a slight outcry from women about the fact that getting an IUD is painful, should we not listen to them? So no, for sure. Like the gaslighting in the medical industry, I've been really fortunate. I guess I don't know if I've been fortunate or if I'm just that type of person to where like, I don't really have people fuck with me in that situation because I usually come in armed with like 17 pieces of documentation that I'm like, here's why you're not weighing me. Here's why this and this and this are not happening. I'm like, so
I'm so fucking proud of you for that because as a good girl reformed, that is not easy. That is not fucking easy to stand in your own authority with a fucking medical professional because we were taught they were God. You know what I mean? And you're younger than me, so it may not have been as much, but with the age of your parents, I'm thinking it was because we were taught like any authority figure, you must show the utmost respect. Elders, church personnel, medical professionals, like period. And I only, because of having to advocate for my children, have come to a place where I'm like, and it's still hard for me. Like I had to fucking, my kid's pediatrician, I was avoiding calling for something because they scare me and something. And we show up and he's like, you know, have you done this? And I was like, no, listen, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't do that, and I wanted to call you and talk to you about it, but you are sometimes very emotive, and, you know, I just didn't want to deal with that. And he was like, emotive? And I was like, yeah, sometimes you get really emotive when you're speaking, and I have trauma, and I can't deal with it. And that's what I said, just straight up. And so then watching him try to fucking not be such a condescending shit face to me through the rest of the visit, Like he was being so intentional not to, but it was very tense. And I was like, I feel so good right now because I have clearly upset this man, and I love that for me. But it's hard. It's hard to stand up for ourselves. Like I didn't even used to be a good advocate for my kids because I'm a good girl. We don't do that. But now I'm like, no. But the weight shit, everything. It's like, I mean, even I have a female doctor that I really love, and she just like casually after a visit where she forced labs on me. I needed them, I'm not gonna lie. It had been like a year, and like, you know, there was some stuff we had been watching, but I was really like in a dark place and didn't care. I was like, I kind of hope that just takes me out. But she just like casually in the notes is like, okay, we really, you know, your A1C is this. We're going to have to talk about your diet and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, that was such a shitty way to put that. Like, there was so many other fucking ways to say that. And I mean, it wasn't the worst way to say it, but like, I know my A1C is creeping up. I can feel it. And then I lost a bunch of weight and then I gained it back. Like, it is what it is. That's the way my body likes to do things. So, whatever. Like, I was like, oh, my A1C is great. Oh, it's not great again. Cool. But that's the way I, like, function in this body. So, I wasn't real worried about it. But I just think, like, how are we ever going to advance in this area if even the women physicians are behaving this way, especially around reproductive health? I can't tell you how many times after each child, immediately, you know, in your 6-week checkup, they're like, okay, and now contraceptive. And I'm like, I don't know why you're so fucking ate up about what I choose to do if I don't or do end up pregnant or not. Like, why are you so fucking concerned about it? That's more money for you. I'll be back. Who cares? But I mean, they were so, because I'm like, because honestly, like, for most of my sexual time, we've kind of just used natural rhythm stuff, just paying attention, you know? So I was like, no, we're fine. They're like, well, that's a quick way to get pregnant. I'm like, well, then I guess I'll see you in a year. I don't know what to tell you. Like, but it was every time. Yeah. And even now, 45, and it's still like, well, I'm like, are you actually recommending a 45-year-old to go back on birth control? Are you actually, with all of the studies about fucking blood clots and everything else, are you actually encouraging this to this degree? Interesting. No, thank you. Yeah. I'm not going back on birth control. I was on it for like 3 months at 18 or 19, and I'm fine. Thank you. I don't want that shit. Yeah. And I don't inherently like judge birth control. I just, for me, know what it did to my body, and I can't handle it. I can't even handle the estrogen spikes to start my like ovulation. I fucking turn into a psycho. Yep. I mean, when I say PMDD, 3 days after I ovulate, for the next 10 days, I'm a fucking raging bitch. And it only gets worse every day until I start my period. Then I have the first day period shit. Then the second day. Then I'm normal. I get about a week out of the month where I feel like a normal human being. Like, I'm on my period right now. That's part of why I'm so fucking tired. It's wrecking my sleep. It's doing all the things. And I'm in the perimenopause phase of life, which means absolutely nothing because we're not really educated on that either. Everything's just listed as a symptom of perimenopause. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about your shit. When I go to the doctor to be like, man, I'm really blah, blah, blah. That's just perimenopause. Welcome. Can you give me an explanation as to why, though? I just want to know why. What hormone is causing that? You can't tell me. Okay.
Elevated cortisol. I'll tell you. Yeah. It's because, so it's, and I taught a class on this last night about the female nervous system and how it applies to the cycle and the different phases of life. But no, you're right. First of all, I think that the amount of time that doctors are trained on perimenopause and menopause is like something astronomically low. I had someone on my show last week and she claimed it was like 8 hours. And honestly, fucking tracks.
Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense.
They're not really trained about it. And here's the other thing, and this is certainly something that I was always a very curious child, and I love to question things. That's why I was such a good journalist. But the more mushrooms I ate, the more I questioned how the world is and society. And so, like, when we think about the fact that 150 years ago, medicine was practicing on, like, slaves.
Yeah.
That wasn't 170, I guess would be more. Yeah. Right? It wasn't that long ago when medicine was hella fucking wild, wild west sus as fuck. So but yet we're trusting them with everything.
Right.
When we have ancestral knowledge, when we have, knowledge from generations back, indigenous knowledge. And so for me, pairing the mushrooms with the knowledge that we didn't even force researchers to look at female bodies until 1993, and then those bastards still loopholed it by only looking at menopausal women who are vastly different than those who bleed, because people who bleed don't have a good control group, right? We're too complex. So honestly, that's like for me where I'm like, let me just, like I said, arm myself with all this research. That's what like I was born to do, I think, is just research shit and then argue with people and tell them. And I think that's why doctors don't really have that much back and forth, because I come to them with like, here's what I've discovered. Can you prove this wrong? Can you tell me why you really need to weigh me and how the weight actually impacts my health? Can you talk about this, and this? So I share that just because doctors don't have as much knowledge as we think they do. And like you were saying, a lot of us, especially those with good girl programming, think it's the end all be all if we ever have to question someone who has been placed in an authority. But you are the fucking authority on your body, my love. You know your body better than everybody. Mm-hmm. And so if somebody isn't going to listen to that, hopefully you've got the ability to find a different person to speak to about the experiences that you're going through if you do need medication or if you do need labs, since we can't give that to ourselves. But a good herbalist, a good like functional medicine person, if you can afford those types of folks to talk to, like look at the wrong side of TikTok, right? Like not the conspiracy side where you're like people who are only eating meat and like doing weird ivermectin shit. Like that's not the side I'm talking about. I'm talking about, the side where it's, the side, right? If Joe Rogan talks about it on his podcast, you probably should not fucking listen to that.
That's when I was out on Joe Rogan. It was a few years ago when all that, I was like, you used to be cool, dude. What happened to you?
Well, and I just don't like center men.
Right.
Sorry. Like,
that's where I'm at now.
I'm not going to center a space that's guys. And it's like, if I don't have somebody telling me this who is a person who's lived the experience, one, I don't give a shit. And two, I want to gather as much of that as possible. And like what you were saying about the silent generation, unfortunately, especially for Western white women, the elders have been eradicated, either from their own shame and trauma or because they were so disconnected from themselves. And so for me, I think that's why leaning into spaces where we are learning from people who don't look like us is essential. People who don't look exactly like us, but who've had female lived experiences is really important. And I think that learning from that can be a space where, we're changing the narrative for the next generation. And so that they don't have to live through, the silent disconnect that we're seeing our grandmothers, our mothers deal with.
Absolutely. I really hope that there's going to be a day where a girl at 11 starts her period and nobody fucking cares. Like they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like openly, you can be like, anybody got a tampon? I remember by the time ninth grade came around, I didn't give a fuck anymore because like I had been around enough girls to where it was like, this is a normal thing. People bleed. And it was like first day of soccer practice, and I had never even played soccer, but my friend who was really good was like, they'll let you on JV if you want to play. And I was like, okay, sure. So I show up, start my period, and I was like, hey, y'all, I started my period. Does anybody have a tampon? The friend who invited me to join was horrified that I would ask girls that I did not know out in front of God and everybody to give me a tampon. And I was like, so confused by that. And looking back, I'm actually kind of proud of myself that I didn't let that affect me at all, because I was kind of a take on anybody's opinion of me. But I knew she was the weird one. Like I was like, what? We're girls. Like this is girlhood. You ask people for tampons. What? But this is a thing. Yep. And I just like, if we have to fucking bleed, we should be able to talk about it ad nauseum, however we want to talk about it. And let me tell you this, when I shed the religious programming, the fucking anger I still feel that men are still preaching that we have period because of fucking Eve. It makes me so fucking outraged. Like, are you shitting me? That's why you're the superior being. 100%. Okay, I get it. Okay.
Dude, don't even get me started. Like, that's a whole separate podcast. It's just like the religious bullshit. But what I will say is when men learn to live in alignment with your cycle, like your man, if he learns to live in alignment with your cycle, his life is better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because your life is better. If he, and I just put something on TikTok the other day, I'm like, if your man isn't down to learn about your cycle, he's not your fucking man.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Like, he ain't your man. You need to get a new man. Because not only does that make the relationship better, it makes everybody's life smoother. But like, let me tell you, my husband, who's 8 years younger than me, went through me learning about my cycle at the same time as I went through it. I had a chart. And of course, I had all of the things, right? Like, we know Leslie, she's very type A.
Love
like,
the data.
these are the foods that we eat in this cycle. This is this. This is this. This is when we do this. This is when we do this. And it's fallen away because it's been 5+ years at this point. But damn, if this man last week wasn't like, all right, we're about to have our period. What do we want to eat this week? I'm like, yes, sir.
I love
But the other thing is that, yeah, and I do too. I think the other part is, and he's not, this isn't how extreme he is, but the blood that you shed in your period is a death and a rebirth portal. And it is chock full of nutrients because that's what would sustain a baby. Okay? So that's not dirty at all. That's actually full of fucking stem cells. And I'm not asking you to like do the weird shit that I do, but like, I give it to my plants. I bleed on the earth. I make it into a mask and put it on my face. And that's why I'm always glowing, right? Like, period blood gets a bad rep, and I'm obsessed with it. Last night, I'm on day 4 of my period, and I use menstrual discs, which I just posted about. I'm obsessed with menstrual discs, fucking obsessed. The hill I will die on is this is the best period product. I also love period panties. Discs I've been using this year.
Wait, what's
10
a
out of
disc?
10 when you figure out how to do it. I'm like, let me pop it out. No, I'm just kidding. A menstrual disc is unlike the cup that actually seals around the cervix.
Yeah.
A menstrual disc slides in just like a tampon, but it has a reservoir down here that can be worn for up to 12 hours. It can hold, I think, 30 to 50 milliliters.
Okay.
And it's really inside internally. It's going to cup, well, it kind of seals off the vaginal canal, so it's catching all of like the flow without being around the cervix, which is what the cup does and creates suction. That terrified me, and I could never like quite get it right.
Stuck, so I've never used any of those.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, the disc is no suction, easy in, easy out. It sits right behind the pubic bone. And because it's going laterally versus this way, like a tampon is the up and down and it can push against the cervix. Also, tampons have like carcinogens in them and like hella sus shit. So this is the tampon in the body, right? In the vaginal canal. This is the disc. Okay. And so it's more flexible for me. It's more comfortable. But when I pull it out at night, I get to see the blood. And so I'm like, ha ha ha. First of all, I'm a witch, so the rituals. But secondly,
right.
The actual information. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, because
I'm 39 years old.
Based off what it's doing.
Yes.
Yeah, what color, what texture. Yeah.
What color? Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I'm like a little scientist every time I pull my cup, my disc out. I'm like, all right. Ooh, last night I'm like taking it out right before bed. I'm like, the color is so good. It's such a good color.
You're like, look how healthy I am.
There's not that many clips. Look at me. Look at fucking me. Look at how great my blood looks. But like, I
love it.
That's
I love it.
Wild and unhinged. And it's exactly the amount of unhingedness that I need all the women in the world to start bringing to the table. Because the second that you pay attention to that essential part of yourself, I feel like you become unfuckwithable. Because if you can handle your period blood and you can touch around in it and smell it, and it's like, it's not the gross thing that people tell you that it is, right? Mm-hmm. It's really not. And I think the disc for me changed all that. Because I was already like doing the research and like putting the dot, like, okay, let's look at this color versus this color. Is it cranberry? Does it look like a crimson? Does it look like cherries? You know, I was already doing that, but the disc really like elevated my weirdness. Yeah. And it's so comfy, man. It's so comfy. I'm like,
oh, I'm going to have to try one because I'm like at a place where I will do the diapers the first couple of days at night. Mm-hmm. And then, like, I don't like tampons, but I'm really afraid to use something that's going to get stuck. So, like, the last half of my period, I'm, like, free bleeding because I don't want to deal with shit because I don't like pads either. And it's, I'm fucking 45 and I'm still struggling with this shit, man. Like, every fucking month, I'm like, what? I gotta figure something else out because them Thanks panties aren't made for big asses. Let me tell you that much. Okay, they're just not.
You know what they're not also made for? A high vulva. Okay. Like, my problem with Thinks panties is I bleed up the front. It's got the diaper in the back. That's not where my blood's coming out. My anatomy is different.
Yeah.
And so I basically have to wear them backwards. At night, I'm wearing them backwards.
Which can't
to accommodate. It's not bad, but it's not great. And I did find some online that are like a non-brand on Amazon that have like the double like the double, triple lining all the way up the front to the band. And those have worked really well. I just love this conversation so much. But yeah, I really think the options out there are so much, first of all, better than what they were when we first started bleeding.
God.
And
yes.
Thank God. And honestly, yeah, the period panties are getting so much better. They don't have the PFAS as much anymore, which are like the plastics that are like make your vulva, I don't know. The way that they claim it online is like you're going to get cancer from it. But it's
I know, it's scary. Like, but even like comfort wise, like I'm like,
right.
Oh, I got to be careful because I don't wear panties usually. So like I was 19 and ran out of clean laundry and I was like, I just won't wear panties because my mom never did and I never understood it. But I was like, we're going to try it. And then I was like, okay, this is pretty nice. I can do this. So I don't ever wear them. And putting something on that's that close and rubbing, it's so fucking uncomfortable to me. Like, I just, that's why I'm like, why can't there be something? I'm really excited to try a disc because I just need something that's not going to create all of these damn issues. Like right now, this month, like because of my weight gain, my periods are getting much heavier again. So like I've ruined all my pajamas this month, like, you know, shit like that. And I'm just tired of it, you know? And I'm just so glad that we're talking about how fucking periods aren't dirty. You're not dirty.
No.
Your blood's not dirty. Your body's not dirty. Your spirit's not dirty. There ain't nothing about it. I know that's what we were taught. I know that very explicitly. I know. I had a relative who was I did talk about this one time with a feminist life coach, but I had a relative once who well, my whole childhood they really talked a lot about how unclean you are on your period and you are not to have sex or do anything during that time. And so you know, I listened to that until I was like, but I'm so horny on my period, what the fuck? And then my husband, I remember the first time I was like, I mean, we can, but it's like day one of my period. Like, it's a fucking massacre. And he's like, okay. And I was like, oh, you don't care? And he's like, well, you had a grandma who taught you to care about that. My grandma didn't teach me to care about that. So no, I don't care. I was like, that was a real turning point for me in that relationship because I'm like, I'm not dirty because my previous husband, you couldn't even, if I even started during, like I had no idea it was coming. I didn't fucking track my cycles or anything. Woo, the freak out that would happen. As if I knew that was going to happen. Like, I'm sorry you got some blood on your dick. My bad.
It's just a fluid.
Yeah.
Honestly. It's well, my husband like says, period only ever stopped a sentence. And I'm like, okay, yes. But, you know, the other thing that you had said, right, about about the period sex. So an orgasm on your period will help your cramps. Like so much. It's so much better than ibuprofen. You don't have to go and have penetrative sex to get that orgasm, right? Maybe use a vibrator on your clit. But that is actually fabulous. And when you have sex on your period and you want to do like blood rituals, you can like manifest all the shit that you want.
I haven't gotten into any of that yet, but
orgasm
I really want
plus
to. I know. Like
the next level.
I've been reading
unhinged
about
womb
it.
Witch.
I've been reading about different stuff, and I'm like, I really gotta. Cause see, not to get like, you know, sorry friends, but like my fucking orgasms have sucked for like 3 months now, to where they're like, there's not like a real climax. There is, but it's like not even a nanosecond, and it's crazy. And I'm like, what is going on? That's probably why I haven't like had a huge desire to have a lot of sex, because I'm like, what's the fucking point? Because I get really frustrated about it. That and my kid, it's summertime and she's like up our asses nonstop, so there's just not a lot of opportunity. Like in our like I'm a morning person, he's a night person, so like with her being awake all the fucking time, it's just hard to fit it in. But also like used to, if we were in like a place where we weren't like doing it a bunch, I'm still using my vibrator all day, every day, you know, but like I haven't wanted to, because I'm like, what's the fucking point? So I was just thinking the other day, like, Well, time for me to figure out some rituals that are going to help with this, because orgasms are really important to me, and I can tell a difference in my skin. It's not good. It's not good. Whenever I'm having lots of orgasms, my skin looks so good.
Yeah. Well, and also it's interesting too, because in perimenopause, I think the brain is like a huge sex organ. And so if you're going through things like mental fog or mental fatigue or burnout or, just mood swings, migraines, any of the issues that can happen as you start to go into menopause, it's really no wonder. I mean, clearly there are a lot of things that impact orgasms as we age, but like no wonder, because I think like the brain is the biggest way to get turned on. And if your brain is fucking with all these other shit, like all these other things, it's just tricky. And the body changes. Let me tell you this. I've gained a lot of weight since I stopped dieting, right? I had anorexia and bulimia for like my entire 20s. And she is different down there. And shit is different down there. And I'm like, okay. So like learning the changes in the body, whether it's gaining weight or losing weight, whether it's aging, I mean, she changes, right? Like the clit size changes, the labia size change, the vulva size changes, the dryness, the wetness, all the things shift. And so, yeah, there's so many different things that happen as we age. And I think when we listen to conversations like this, where people continue to talk about that, not only does it break the taboo around the period, but also hopefully helps you understand that like, it's worth a look. It's worth looking into, like literally mirror, look at vulva, and figuratively, right? Like asking curiously, what is it that's shifted? Because maybe desires have shifted. Maybe fantasies have shifted. Like you've been saying, it's summer. The kids are around a lot. Schedules have shifted. So I think a lot of times when women have things that like change and they experience what they might call problems, shame comes in, because then they're blaming themselves when it could be a whole host of things that don't require you to feel shameful at all.
Absolutely. And that's why I love that we've talked so fucking much just about period stuff, because I know people in their 50s who still won't talk about this openly, and it takes women like us to show people that you can, and nothing's going to happen to you except you're going to get better. That's it. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm going to throw out one more disclaimer. You said it. I'm going to reaffirm this. Y'all ain't got to fucking take every little thing we said and think we're saying do all of this. Take the spirit of this conversation, which is you are a woman and nothing about you is to be ashamed of. There's a lot to celebrate. Those periods are, I don't want to say there are magic, because there are people who have had to have hysterectomies and stuff, but like they are a part of our magic, and they are a superpower. They're not your weakness. Yep. That's something that I've really like come home to over the last year, is all of these things that we viewed as the thing that was holding us back, or the reason we are weak, or whatever. All of those, every last one, are actually our superpowers. When you learn to embrace every ounce of who you are and understand that it all has a role, and not just little roles, everything that you experience in your body, in your mind, in your spirit, in your life, it all fucking matters, and it didn't happen unintentionally. So embrace it. Like, if you are a person who bleeds, there's magic in that bleeding, and you get to determine what the magic is for you. Right now, for me, in this very moment, the magic is getting to connect with somebody else who's had all these same experiences and doesn't give a fuck if we talk about it. Like, the last time I talked about periods like that on the show, like, my husband was a little embarrassed because I let everybody know he don't give a fuck about period sex, but, things like that. But, like, people did respond, and it was either this camp of, I was taught that too, thank you, or, girl, that was a little much. None of it hurts me, because it's like, I know where that comes from. That's fine. But just listen, have an open heart to this, because maybe you're never going to do period magic, and that's fine. But at least if you can get to a place where you can celebrate the fact that, like, all of it matters, and it's all a really important part of your being, that's magic. That is part of your magic, and you can use that however you want, however you see fit for yourself. That's what we're saying. Do what you want to do. Don't do what some fucking 95-year-old man told you to do.
Amen.
You know.
And the whole church said amen.
Exactly. Period. I have fucking loved having you on today. I knew you were going to be so fun. Is there anything as we wrap up that you feel like we didn't get to touch on that you just want to throw out there, or, you know, just anything, any final words, whatevs?
I have a free guide if you're listening to this and you're like, I want to be where these women are. I have a cycle guide called Cycle Alchemy. It's an intuitive look at cycle tracking. It includes information about somatic work, which is something that I also do. And it talks a little bit about psychedelics. So I'll give you the show notes, link for the show notes, and you can grab that. It'll put you on my email list. Also, if you're listening and you want to do this work, if you want to explore being in sisterhood with people just like us who talk about the wildest of the wild, I would love to give you, as a thank you for having me on the show, a 30% off for my membership called the Inner Circle. It's group coaching 2 times a month, plus a micro-assisted ceremony. There's also a wonderful course in there to help you regulate your nervous system like a woman, start to heal your womb trauma, reconnect with your cycle, and rewire your female brain. And so I can give you some information on that too if you want to put that in the show notes.
Okay, awesome. I will absolutely do that. And I'm gonna get your menstrual guide. Because I'm still learning shit every day, and that's why I love my show, because I get to learn so much too. And it's not just the connection. I still then get this after effect of like, oh, you have resources. Love that for me. But I will make sure that I include all of those links in the show notes. And I don't know if I told you this or if you saw it, but I record a separate intro at the time, and so I will highlight all of your bio and all of that shit then. But I've loved this conversation, and I appreciate you so much.
I have too. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to Emotionally Unavailable. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. Emotionally Unavailable.